Hello learners. Today we are starting a new course of Complete CSS. In this video we will learn Complete CSS from beginner to advanced level. Watch this video till the end. Do subscribe this channel and share this video to your friends. Let's start the video. I would also ask you to access this playlist with link in the description box. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is the language we use to style and beautify a web page. Here it is shown how we write comments in the CSS. CSS selectors are used to select HTML elements you want to style. There are 5 types of CSS selectors: simple selectors, combinator selector, pseudo-class selector, pseudo-element selector, attribute selectors. We will learn about all these selectors one by one in the upcoming videos. The CSS syntax contains a selector and a declaration block. Peak color, red. Here with the above syntax we are styling paragraph tag in the HTML file with red color. Here P paragraph is the selector, color is the property and red is the property value. There are 3 ways of inserting a style sheet: external CSS, internal CSS, inline CSS. When CSS is written in a separate file and imported in HTML, then it is called external CSS. Basically, we write external CSS for more than one HTML file. We write all the CSS content in separate file and import it by writing below line in head tag. Link rel equals stylesheet ref equals file link. The external style sheet is saved with .css extension. Let's see a quick look on how we write CSS. First, if you have not installed Live Preview feature, go to the extension and type Live Preview. Click on the first option and install it. This feature helps you to see live update on what changes you make in your file. This is the live preview option, which helps you see changes within the Visual Studio Code. Now we are writing a separate CSS file style.css for the index.html. As we will import the link line inside the head element of our HTML file, you will be able to see the changes in the HTML file. Thus, it is said that HTML is the skeleton of your web page. CSS is the beauty of your web page, and JavaScript, which we will learn in upcoming videos, is the brain of our web page. This is the way we write external CSS for our website. Let's add a paragraph element and give some style using CSS. An internal CSS is written in the HTML file itself within style tags inside head element of HTML. An internal CSS is basically written for one single HTML file. Let's see a quick demonstration of how we import internal CSS in our HTML file. We will just copy the previous written CSS and paste it inside the style tags inside head element. An inline style may be used to apply a unique style for a single element. Inline CSS is given to an HTML element using style attribute. For example, h1 style equals color, blue. This is a heading /h1. P style equals color, red, font weight, bold. This is a line /p. Let's see a quick demonstration of how we write inline CSS. The CSS border property specifies the style, width, and color of an element's border. Border style. The border style property specifies what kind of border to display. Property values include dotted, dashed, solid, double, groove, ridge, inset, outset, none, hidden. You can specify the border style of each side as per sides like border top style, border right style, border bottom style, border left style. If you give 4 values to border style property, the style will be applied in the sequence top, right, bottom, left. If you give 3 values in border style, the first value will be applied to top, the second value will be applied to right and left, the third value will be applied to bottom. And if you give 2 values to border style property, the first value will be applied to top and bottom sides, the second value will be applied to right and left sides. 3. Border color. This property is used to set the color of the 4 borders. Border color, red. 4. Border width. The border width property specifies the width of the 4 borders. The width can be set as a specific size in various units like px, cm, m, etc. Border, 2px solid red. This is a shorthand property of border in which we specify all 3 property values in one property in a sequence. Border radius. This property is used to add rounded borders to an element. Border radius, 5px. Let's see a quick demonstration for all the properties of borders we have seen till now. First, let's see how border style properties work for different number of property values we give to it, that is when we give 2 values, when we give 3 values, and when we give 4 values. Now let's understand box model, one of the most important topics of CSS. Visualize this image shown. If we write any HTML element, the space between its border and element is called padding, and the space outside the border of the element is called margin. It can be increased or decreased through CSS. Let's learn in details. The padding is the space between the element and the border. Padding is the space around an element inside a defined border. Padding can be added using property name called padding. Example, padding, 5px. Padding can also be added to different sides individually using property names like padding top, padding left, padding bottom, padding right. Let's see a quick demonstration of how it works. The margin is the space outside the border of any element. Margin can be added using property name margin. Example, margin, 5px. Margin can also be added to different sides individually using property names like margin top, margin left, margin bottom, margin right. Let's see a quick demonstration of how it works. I would request you all to please comment your suggestions for further improvements in the tutorial. There are various ways to specify color names while specifying color property, like by directly using color names, RGB, HEX, HSL, etc. Color names. In CSS, a color can be specified by using a predefined color names. Example, peak color, red. Here we have directly used red color name. RGB represents red, green, blue. In CSS, a color can be specified as an RGB value, using the formula RGB red, green, blue. The value of each parameter is specified between 0 to 255. There is an extension of RGB called RGBA, where A refers to alpha, which specifies opacity for a color. HEX. In CSS, color can be specified using a hexadecimal value in the form #RGGBB. R specifies red. GG specifies green. BB specifies blue. ISO represents HE saturation, lightning. In CSS, a color can be specified as an HSL value, using the formula HSL hue, saturation, lightening. Hue is a degree on the color wheel from 0 to 360. Saturation is a percentage value. Lightness is also a percentage value. There is an extension of HSL called HSLA where A refers to alpha, which specifies opacity for a color. Let's see a quick demonstration. Let's take 3 headings and see how there are different ways of assigning colors to headings. There are different ways of defining selectors in CSS. One which is through ID. Let's see how. In RGB we assign each value between 0 to 255. In HEX we assign values based on hexadecimal value system. Now let's add a new heading and see how to add HSL color system and what is RGBA coloring system. How A in RGBA refers to opacity. In HSL the value of hue differs between 0 to 360, whereas saturation and lightness values are given in percentage-wise. Now you will notice as we change the values of opacity, which can be set between 0.0 to 1.0, the opacity of the background will change. The CSS background properties are used to add background effects for elements. We use background color property to specify background color. You can also set opacity, also called transparency, or the background. The value of opacity differs from 0.0 to 1.0. Example: opacity 0.3. Let's see a quick demonstration. The CSS background properties are also used to add background images for elements. There are a variety of CSS properties associated with background image, like background image, which specifies an image as a background of an HTML element. 2. Background repeat. With this property you may control repeating of the background image. The property value differs from repeat X, repeat Y, no repeat, etc. Background repeat, no repeat. 3. Background position. With this property you can specify the position of the background. Background position, center. 4. Background attachment. The background attachment property specifies whether the background image should scroll or fixed. Background attachment, fixed. Background property shorthand. As there are multiple properties for background, all these properties values can be compiled in one property. In following order: background color, background image, background repeat, background attachment, background position. Let's see a quick demonstration. I would request you all to please comment your suggestions for further improvements in the tutorial. In HTML we have learned about anchor tag. In this tutorial we will learn various types of ways to style an anchor tag. Hyperlink in CSS can be styled differently based on its 4 different states. A link. This is a state when the link is unvisited, means the link is not clicked yet. Ain't visited. This is a state when the link is visited, means the link is clicked. A hover. The moment when the mouse is kept over the link. A active. This is a state or the moment when the link is clicked. Let's see a quick demonstration. First let's take 2 anchor tags with different links. Let's give a target value blank so that the result opens in a new tab. As we have learned in the HTML tutorial. If you have not seen the video yet, click on the above link. As we have clicked on the Google link, the link opens in a new tab, but it looks like there is some error in adding link. We have not added the complete link HTTPS in the ref. Now you may notice the color of the above link is different than the color of the below link. This is because the above link is clicked and hence it comes in the state of visited, but on the other hand the below link is not clicked yet, so it is in normal link state. As we have written CSS for the link state of anchor, the style is applied only to the below link. Now let's specify the style for visited link. You have seen that as we have clicked the below link gets into the state of visited and hence the visited style is applied to it. Similarly, there are other 2 states, hover and active. Hover is the state when mouse is hovered over a link, whereas active is a state when the link is clicked. Now look very carefully. Now as we have specified different styles for all the 4 states. So, when we will hover over the link the style gets different, similarly when we click on the link the style gets different. An outline is similar to a CSS border. It can be considered as a border for a border. An outline property values and properties are all same as CSS border. Example: outline, 2px solid red. There is one more property called outline offset which adds space between outline and border. Example: outline offset, 10px. Let's see a quick demonstration of how it works. Now let's look at some text and font properties of CSS. There are a variety of properties in CSS to style text in the browser. If you want to learn all the CSS properties associated with text and fonts, you may use ChatGPT to learn all the font and text properties of CSS. Practice all these font properties to master them. Do not sit and learn all these properties, as you will master them with repetitive practice. I would request you all to please comment your suggestions for further improvements in the tutorial. CSS Table. To style a table you need to understand this. TH refers to table heading. TR refers to table row. TD refers to table data. Table borders. To specify table border in CSS, use the border property. Border, 2px solid black. To collapse the border, use the property border collapse. Let's see a quick demonstration. First, we have created a table structure, and now we will see different types of CSS table styling one by one. First, let's explore border styling. As you know, border is the outer boundary of any element. So, if you apply border property to table heading and every table data, it looks like this. Now, instead of writing border properties separately, you can write at one place separated by comma. After that, collapsing all the border element together. Similarly, there are various other properties including height, width, text align, vertical align, and padding, which you can use to make your table look good. You may also use various selectors like hover and nth child to design the table look more beautiful. Nth child even is used to apply style in the even rows. Nth child odd is used to apply style in the odd rows. Let's look at various types of CSS style properties which can make our table look more beautiful. Like, if you give border bottom property, it looks more attractive. You can also style the nth child of the table with nth child property. If you give even, then it will give background color to even rows, and if odd, then it will affect odd rows. The display property is used to specify how an element is shown on a web page. Every HTML element has a default display property, whether inline or block. The display property is used to change the default display behavior of HTML element. Let's see a quick demonstration. Let's first create a div element and apply different values of display properties like block, none, inline, and inline block. We will also explore difference between inline and inline block. As div is by default an block element, so you will notice no changes when we set display property to block. Whereas when we set display element to none, the div element will disappear. When we set display property to inline and inline block, it will occupy only that much space which is required. When we will apply height and width to inline element, it will not be applied, whereas when we set height and width to inline block and block element, the height and width is applied on the element. See it once more. Now let's see difference between display none and visibility hidden. When we set to display none, its space is not occupied. But when we apply visibility hidden to any element, its space is still occupied. The basic difference between display inline and inline block is on setting the property of any element to inline block. It behaves as an inline element, but you can add height and width to it. Similar to width, there is a property called max width. Using max width improves the browser's handling in small windows, which makes site usable in small windows. Let's see a quick demonstration. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. The z-index property specifies the stack order of an element. The element can have a positive or negative stack order. Let's see some quick demonstration. Here we have taken 3 div elements, first, middle and last. Each div element is styled differently. Now let's assign z-index value to each div. Note, z-index value can be negative as well as positive. If any div has greater z-index value, it means it will overlap the other div element. As you can see, the div element with z-index 2 overlaps div with z-index 1. The first div element z-index value is set as -1, which is the smallest value as compared to other div elements, so it will go behind other div, and if we set it to 3, the greatest value compared to other div elements, then it will overlap other div elements. CSS Position. The position property specifies the place for any HTML element in the web page. Generally, we set top, bottom, right, left properties for setting the position of the element in the web page, but these property would not work if we do not set position property. There are different types of position values, which include static, relative, absolute, fixed, sticky. After specifying the position property, we set the alignment for the element like top, bottom, right, left. CSS Static. The static positioned elements are not affected by the top, bottom, left, and right properties. HTML elements are positioned static by default. Let's see quick demonstration. We will first create a div. Then we'll set position property to static. After setting the position property to static, then we will try to set properties like top and left, but this will not affect the element. Position, relative. An element with position, relative is positioned relative to its normal position. For example, if in case we set left 50px, after giving position, relative, the element will move 50px left from its current position. Let's see some quick demonstrations. Previously on keeping position static, noting changed, but now as we set position to relative, we could add changes by adding top, left, bottom and right. Position absolute. An element with position absolute is positioned relative to its nearest positioned ancestors. However, if the positioned element has no positioned ancestors, it uses the document body and moves along with the page scrolling. Let's see some quick demonstration. For this, we need to take 2 div, one for reference, which we will set as position relative and other position absolute. Position fixed. An element with position fixed is positioned relative to the viewport, which means it always stays at the same place even if the page is scrolled. The top, right, bottom, and left properties are used to position the element. Let's see a quick demonstration. When we fix any div, it means that it will not go out of the frame even if we scroll. Position, sticky. An element with position, sticky is positioned based on the user's scroll position. An element with position, sticky toggles between relative and fixed positioning depending on the scroll position. Let's see a quick demonstration. It is more or less similar to position fixed. In sticky, if we set the element to be at top 0, then it will not go out of the frame if we scroll down, and if we set bottom 0, then it will not go out of the frame when we scroll up. CSS Float property is used for positioning and formatting content. The float property can have 4 values: none, left, right, and inherit. The left value floats element towards left. The right value floats element towards right. The none value does not make any changes. It is by default. The inherit value element inherits the float value to its parent. The CSS clear properties takes care of the element next to the floating element. Similar to float property, the clear property can have any of the 5 values: none, left, right, both, and inherit. When we set clear property to left, the element is pushed below left floated element, similar to right value. While when we set clear property to both, the element is pushed below both left and right pushed elements. When we set clear property to inherit, the element inherits the clear value from its parent. Let's look at the demonstration for setting different values for float and clear in 3 different div. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. The CSS Overflow property is generally used when the content of the element does not fit in the specified area. The Overflow property has the following values. Visible, it is set by default. The content generally goes outside the desired range. Hidden, the content which goes outside the desired range is invisible. Scroll, it adds a scroll bar to see the content and the content is clipped. Auto, it adds a scroll bar only if necessary. It is similar to scroll. Let's see a quick demonstration and understand each types one by one. First, let's create a div and set its height and width to understand what exactly is overflow. Now, as we have set the range of the div, you can see some content getting out of the box, which is by default overflow type visible. On setting the property overflow to hidden, the overflown part gets clipped. Similarly, there are 2 more parts, scroll and auto, which adds a scroll bar to the div so that we could easily see the clipped part. The only difference between overflow scroll and overflow auto is that overflow scroll adds scroll bar to both horizontal as well as vertical, but overflow auto adds scroll bar only when it is necessary. Like as we increased the height of the div, overflow auto removed the scroll bar within the div as it was not necessary, but as we will reduce the size, it will again add the scroll bar. A pseudo-element in CSS is used to style any specific part of the element. For example, selection, before, after, first line, etc. Let's see a quick demonstration of some of the pseudo-elements. First, selection. Notice the color of the text when we select the text. It's blue background and white text color. Now let's apply selection color to the text element to red background and green text. Now let's apply before and after to our text element and see how it works. Also, you would notice that the content which we add using before and after pseudo element cannot be selected. A pseudo-class in CSS is used to define a special state of an element. For example, hover, active, link, etc. we have already seen in the anchor video. If you have not seen the video yet, click on the above link and watch the video. Also access the web development playlist from the description box. Let's see a quick demonstration. Let's create a custom tooltip. CSS form. To style a CSS form, we generally use attribute selector to specifically style any input type of forms. For example, input type equals text, it will only select text fields. Input type equals number, it will only select number fields. Whereas to style text area, we simply use text area property. Let's see a quick demonstration. We have created a simple form and now we are going to style it using CSS attribute selector. Using attribute selector, we have styled only the text field. Now let's apply the same style property to all input field and modify the submit button of the form. Now let's style the text area as well. CSS shadows can be applied as text shadow, applied to all text elements. Box shadow, applied to all elements except text elements. By using, we could apply one or more shadows to the elements. Example: text shadow, 2px 2px 4px red. First, 2px spreads color horizontally. Second, 2px spreads color vertically. Third, 4px spreads blur effect. Same applies to box shadow property as well. Now let's see a quick demonstration. Now we have added one shadow to the text elements. We can also add multiple text shadows of different color by just adding a comma. Same applies for box shadow as well. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. CSS 2D transforms allow the element to move, rotate, scale and skew elements. The property associated with it is transform. Some of the main functions of 2D transforms are: translate. The translate function moves an element from its current position. Rotate. As the name suggests, the rotate function moves an element to clockwise or anti-clockwise. Scale, the scale function increases or decreases the size of an element. Skew, the skew function skews an element along the x and y axis by the given angles. Let's look at quick demonstration of each. First, let's look at the translate function, which displaces the elements from its original position. As we have set the value for translate function, we can see the value being displaced. Now second one is rotate function, which rotates the element based on the positive or negative value. For positive value it rotates in the clockwise direction, and for negative value it rotates in the anti-clockwise direction. Thirdly, we will look at the scale function, using which we can increase or decrease the size of an element. If the value exceeds 1, the size increases, whereas if the value decreases 1, the size 2 reduces. We can use scale x function to scale the size of element horizontally and scale y function to scale the size of element vertically. Lastly, we have skew function, which skews the element along horizontally or vertically. Skew x does it horizontally, whereas skew y does it vertically. The matrix function combines all the 2D transform functions into one. For matrix function, the parameters are as follows. Matrix scale x, skew y, skew x, scale, translate x, translate y. Now all these functions we have learned till now can be written in a single function called matrix. This is how we can do. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. CSS 3D transforms are similar to CSS 2D transform. We set the transform property as follows. Transform, rotate x, 80 degrees. CSS 3D transform contains three main rotate functions. Rotate x. It rotates an element around its x-axis at a given degree. Rotate y. It rotates an element around its y-axis at a given degree. Rotate z. It rotates an element around its z-axis at a given degree. Let's see a quick demonstration of all three 3D transform. Now, let's see how we can use these 2D and 3D transform effectively using hover pseudo-class elements. Thus, it is similar for all other transform functions. I would suggest you to practice these functions yourself. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. CSS Transitions helps changing property values smoothly by setting some transition properties and a duration of the effect. Some of the important properties associated with transition are transition, transition delay, transition duration, transition property, transition timing function. The transition timing function property specifies the speed curve of the transition effect. It has following values: ease, linear, ease in, ease out, ease in out, etc. Every transition timing function has different features. Linear, speed of transition is same from start to end. Ease, speed of transition is slow start, then fast and then slow to end. Ease in, transition is slow start. Ease out, transition is slow end. Ease in out, transition effect with slow start and end. Let's look at some quick demonstration. First, we are taking a div and we assign it with some CSS style like height, width and background color. Now let's add some transition. For that, first we have to add some style which will be displayed while hovering on the div element. Now, after the hover style is added, we will add some CSS to make the transition smooth using transition property and transition timing function property. You can also use other transition property we have discussed now. We may also add transform property to make variety of transition effects. All you need to do is practice different properties and learn. Transition helps beautify your frontend and can be used to make attractive frontend websites. So do not forget to practice your own. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. CSS Animations allows us to add different types of animation or change CSS styling without writing any JavaScript logic. Keyframes: to add animation we are supposed to specify CSS styles inside the keyframes. Here is how we use keyframes. We will use following properties for CSS animation. Animation name. Animation name property specifies the name of the keyframe. Animation duration. Animation property defines how long an animation should take to complete. Animation delay. Animation delay property specifies a delay for the start of an animation. Animation direction. Animation direction property should be played forward or backward. It has following values like normal, reverse, alternate, alternate reverse. Animation iteration count. This property specifies how many times an animation should run. It determines the number of times the animation will repeat. Animation timing function. It defines how the animation progresses over time by adjusting its acceleration and deceleration. It has values like ease, linear, ease in, ease out, ease in out, cubic Bezier, n, etc. Animation fill mode. The animation fill mode property in CSS specifies how an animated element should apply styles before and after the animation runs. Its values include none, forwards, backwards, both. Animation. This is in shorthand property for all the above animation properties. We write animation shorthand property this way. Animation. Name duration timing function delay iteration count direction fill mode. You should practice all this property in order to get perfection in CSS animations. Now let's look at a quick demonstration. We have created a div and styled the div using some basic CSS. Now we need to add some animation effects. Let's do it. You can choose any name of the identifier as per your wish. There are various ways to add animations. First one is, add the current style properties under, from and the new style property under, to. Second one is, add the style properties as percentage-wise like 0%, 25%, 50%, 100%. We will look at each one of them. There are more variety of styling we can add, only you need is to practice using these amazing properties. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. If you are worried of your daily life problems and want a permanent solution, you should read this book. This book contains the life journey of Lord Ram. How difficult his life was, and moving through all these difficulties he taught us how to live life like a warrior. Link of this book is in the description box. Flexbox is a layout method for arranging items in rows or columns, and it allows us to design responsive and flexible layouts efficiently. Flexbox helps in aligning and distributing space among elements inside a container. Components of a Flexbox are Flex container, the container element. Flex items, the items inside the container. The Flex container becomes flexible by setting Display, Flex. Some of the properties associated with Flex container are Flex direction. This property specifies the display direction of the Flex items. Its values can be row reverse, column reverse. Flex wrap. This property specifies whether the Flex items should wrap or not. Its values can be now wrap, wrap reverse. Justify content. This property is used to align the Flex items when space is empty inside the container. Its values can be center, Flex start, Flex end, space around, space between, space evenly. 4. Align items. This property is used to align items vertically. Its values can be center, flex start, flex end, stretch, baseline, normal. 5. Align container. It is similar to align items. This is used when we want to adjust spacing between rows in a multi-line flex container. Its values can be center, stretch, flex start, flex end, space around, space between, space evenly. Let's practice some properties. Look at the code. We taken a div container and added 4 span tags within it. After that we have given basic styling to both div and span tag. On giving display flex, the div container changes to flex container and the span tags changes to flex items. To add some flex container property like justify container, flex items, etc., we will add those property in the div container. Coming to the properties of flex items. Order. This property specifies the order of the flex items inside the flex container. Flex grow. This property specifies how much a flex item will grow compared to the other flex items. Flex shrink. This property specifies how much a flex item will shrink compared to the other flex items. Flex basis. This property specifies the initial length of a flex item. Flex. This property is the shorthand property for all the above flex items property. To implement these properties we have to add these properties to the flex items, which are span tags. You can see we have changed the order of flex item 1 to the 4th position. Similarly, we can add order to all other flex items. Please do not forget to practice these properties once. As to master web development, most important thing is practice. Also, do subscribe to this channel as we are going to do various projects in upcoming videos, which will help you improve your web development skills. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. CSS Grid is a grid-based layout which allows developers to easily create complex web layouts easily. Similar to Flex, CSS Grid components are Grid Container, Grid Items. To use CSS Grid, we use Display, Grid, for block-level grid container, or Display, Inline Grid, for inline-level grid container. There are 2 types of gap property in CSS Grid. Column gap, which specifies the gap between the columns in a grid. 2. Row gap, which specifies the gap between the rows in a grid. Both the above gap properties has one shorthand property gap. Grid template columns. The grid template columns property defines the number of columns in your grid layout, and it defines the width of each column. Grid template rows. The grid template rows property defines the number of rows in your grid layout, and it defines the width of each row. Justify content. This property is used to align grid items when they do not use all available space horizontally. Its values are space evenly, space around, space between, center, start, and end. Align content. The align content property is used to align the grid items when they do not occupy spaces vertically. Its values can be space evenly, space around, space between, center, start, end. Let's look at all these properties one by one. We have taken a div container and 6 span items. We have given a basic designing to all these. We have then added some grid properties like display grid, grid template columns, and gap property, justify content, and align content. Grid column start property specifies where to start a grid item. Grid column end property specifies where to end a grid item. Grid column property is a shorthand property for the grid column start and the grid column end properties. Grid column 2/span 2. Grid row start property specifies where to start a grid item. Grid row end property specifies where to end a grid item. Grid row property is a shorthand property for the grid row start and the grid row end properties. Grid row 1/span 2. Justify self property is used to align the content of a grid item along the row axis. Justify self center. Align self property is used to align the content of a grid item along the column axis. Align self center. Let's look at quick demonstration. Do subscribe to this channel as we are going to do various projects in upcoming videos, which will help you improve your web development skills. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. CSS responsiveness helps make your web page look good on all devices. To make any web page responsiveness, you need to add following documents under head tags. Meta name equals viewport content equals width equals device width, initial scale equals 1.0 /. After inserting the above line in head tags, if you need to add styling for specific screen width, add following code in the CSS part. Let's see a quick demonstration. We have taken 2div element and styled the entire web page using basic CSS. We have also added meta tag in the head tag, and then we will make the web page responsive. We have changed the styling for the screen size less than equal to 500 pixel. It means whenever we will reduce the size of the screen to 500 pixel or less, the CSS written inside the media query will be implemented. Do subscribe to this channel as we are going to do various projects in upcoming videos, which will help you improve your web development skills. Do not forget to give your valuable suggestions in the comment box. Hope you enjoyed it and learned new things from this comprehensive course. Thanks for watching this video. Like this video, share with your friends and subscribe to this channel.